Mary Kay Cabot wasn't holding back. Following the Cleveland Browns' loss to the Vikings, she was blunt in her criticism of Dillon Gabriel for not finishing the job. Shade isn't the only thing. A direct shot from one of Cleveland's most trustworthy insiders has turned what should have been a quiet quarterback change into a full-fledged media circus. The real question is not whether Shedeur Sanders will take over, but why he hasn't done so yet. Because judging by this team's performance, the Gabriel experiment might already be on life support.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Dillon Gabriel's debut performance was a model example of cautious mediocrity. Check down after check down, as if he were attempting to finish a spreadsheet rather than win a football match. This isn't a sustainable offense, even though it got them past a few plays. The moment defenses tighten up, they will detect this and crush it. Cabot's criticism focused on how they lost rather than just how they lost. The Browns' inability to make a decision caused them to collapse, not just lose to the Vikings. Shedeur Sanders, meanwhile, is sitting on the bench, fit, competent, and possibly prepared. The fans are incensed. Analysts are annoyed. Additionally, the media is becoming more vocal. Because let's face it, Gabriel's height and narrow field of vision won't magically improve on their own. He is unable to supervise his own linemen, and the conservative approach is merely a stall tactic rather than a strategy. Defenses will eventually catch up to him and punish him, even if he plays it safe. This debate is about more than just the quarterback. Under the guise of a depth chart problem, there is a front office crisis. It appears that the Browns management will not acknowledge that they made a poor decision. They're losing money, whether it's because of preseason obligations, a fear of undermining Gabriel's self-esteem, or just plain coaching ego. While the offense falters, they are allowing Sanders, a proven college star, to sit idly by. It now appears more like sabotage than a development plan. Shedeur isn't just any unfinished project. He is a calm, intelligent, mobile quarterback who has proven to be successful under duress. His contributions are desperately needed by the Browns. Because they might want to look at the calendar if the idea was to give Gabriel time to become comfortable in the position. That window is closing quickly. Mary Kay Cabot too? She just threw the first game into what might turn into a full-fledged quarterback controversy firestorm. The Cleveland Browns are spiraling again, and this time, it's not because of a bad draft pick or a blown playoff opportunity. It's the quarterback drama that has fans, analysts, and even trusted insiders lighting up the hot take circuit. And when Mary Kay Cabot, yes, that Mary Kay, the Cleveland Browns oracle herself, decides to throw shade on a QB, you know things are getting ugly. After the Browns' recent loss to the Minnesota Vikings, Mary Kay didn't hold back. Her words? Dillon Gabriel couldn't finish the job. That's not just a critique. That's a direct hit, and coming from someone as respected and connected as Cabot, it signals something deeper than just a disappointing game. It's a flashing red light pointing to internal unrest and an organization that may be on the verge of another self-inflicted disaster. Let's set the scene. Dillon Gabriel gets the start. Shedeur Sanders, the high-profile, high-potential quarterback with an NCAA track record that practically screams future franchise face, is benched. From the get-go, fans were side-eyeing the decision. Why Gabriel? Why now? Then came the game. Gabriel's performance? Safe. Conservative. Boring. Mostly checkdowns. Lots of short passes. He played it like he was terrified to make a mistake, which, in the NFL, is the mistake. That kind of play might sneak you past a weak or unprepared defense, but it won't survive long-term. And against defenses who do their homework? That kind of game management turns into drive stalls, missed opportunities, and scoreboard pain. And that's exactly what happened. Gabriel didn't just play it safe, he played like he was trying to avoid being noticed. But when you're under center in Cleveland, trying not to be noticed is how you get noticed. Fans were already restless. The moment the Browns' offense sputtered under Gabriel's conservative style, the internet lit up. Shedeur Sanders' name started trending almost immediately. The commentary wasn't subtle. Analysts, insiders, and fans all had the same take. Why is Sanders not starting? He's the better quarterback. He has the poise. He has the arm. He's shown more in college than Gabriel ever did. So what's the holdup? The coaching staff's decision looked worse by the hour. Gabriel's style gave defenses permission to compress. Without the threat of a deep pass, defenses adjusted quickly. They crept up. They smothered the short game. And they dared Gabriel to throw long, which he rarely did. Whether it's a vision issue, height limitations, or just plain hesitancy, it became obvious that he struggles to make those throws. And when he tried, the results weren't pretty. So now we've got a quarterback who's clearly not ready to carry a franchise, a fan base screaming for a replacement, and a respected insider like Cabot publicly calling out the coaching staff's golden boy. That's not noise, that's smoke from a fire someone in the Browns building refuses to put out. Let's talk about what's really going on. The Browns' reluctance to start Sanders seems like more than just a football decision. There are whispers about contract politics, preseason promises, and protecting the psyche of a young, nervous Gabriel. Maybe they don't want to damage his confidence. Maybe they're just doubling down on a bad call because admitting they were wrong feels worse than losing a few more games. But here's the problem. Protecting one player shouldn't come at the cost of the entire franchise. There's a reason Sanders' name is dominating fan discussions. He's a proven winner. He's tough. He knows how to read defenses. And most importantly, he knows how to lead. The Browns aren't just benching a good quarterback, they're potentially sidelining their future. This kind of organizational stubbornness isn't new. The Browns have a long history of falling in love with the wrong QB, clinging to hope for too long, and burning valuable development time in the process. And every time they do, it sets the franchise back another season. Or 2. Or 5. It's not just that Gabriel had a rough start. It's that his style, low risk, low reward, is a blueprint for mediocrity. Defenses in the NFL aren't going to stand around and let that work. Once the tape is out, it's over. Gabriel's inability to challenge secondaries downfield means every drive is a grind. Every yard is contested. That's a long, punishing way to play offense. And let's be real, Gabriel's physical limitations aren't helping. He's not tall enough to consistently see over his linemen. His pocket presence? Shaky. His timing on deep throws? These aren't flaws that can be fixed overnight. And while he's learning on the field, Sanders is sitting, wasting reps, chemistry-building opportunities, and valuable development time. You can't grow as a future starter from the bench. And you especially can't grow if the guy in front of you is barely treading water. Which brings us back to Mary Kay Cabot's comments. She's not just venting. She's warning. Her critique is a message to the front office. The clock is ticking. You made your pick. It's not working. And everyone can see it. The pressure is building fast. Fans are furious. Social media is relentless. Analysts are dissecting every Gabriel pass. And every time Sanders is seen pacing the sideline in a warm-up hoodie, the frustration builds. This isn't a case of the backup being popular just because he hasn't played yet. Sanders has played, just not here. And his resume is stronger than the guy starting over him. What are the Browns waiting for? At this point, the writing is on the wall. If Gabriel continues to sputter, the decision will be taken out of the coaching staff's hands. The noise will be too loud. The backlash too strong. And if they wait too long, they risk something even worse than a few losses. They risk alienating their fans, fracturing the locker room, and delaying the development of the player who could actually fix this mess. There's no upside to dragging this out. If Sanders is your future, let him start becoming it now. Every game he doesn't play is a game wasted. And every game Gabriel starts while looking overwhelmed just adds to the narrative that this coaching staff is out of touch. It's not about loyalty to a preseason plan. It's about adapting, recognizing when you got it wrong, and fixing it before the season slips into irrelevance. This isn't about rooting against Gabriel, it's about doing what's best for the team. And right now, Gabriel is looking like a short-term placeholder with long-term limitations. Sanders, meanwhile, looks like a franchise-altering talent just waiting for his shot. The Browns don't have the luxury of time. The more they stall, the more frustrated the fanbase gets. The longer Sanders sits, the more they risk delaying his growth. The more they protect Gabriel, the more they expose themselves to a full-on revolt from fans, insiders, and, eventually, the locker room. There's still time to course correct. But it won't last forever. The Browns have a decision to make and everyone knows what it is. Either they acknowledge the obvious and start Sanders now, or they keep fumbling in the dark while their future sits on the bench, watching a winnable season slip away. Your move, Cleveland. If you're tired of seeing promising players stuck on the bench and want to see real change, drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Shedeur Sanders be starting right now? And what do you think is really going on behind closed doors in Cleveland? Hit that subscribe button for more breakdowns of the wildest decisions and meltdowns in the NFL. Because this isn't just a quarterback controversy, it's the Browns being the Browns. Again, the Browns are still pretending like this isn't a 5-alarm fire. Like they're above the noise. Like the fans are just impatient, or the media's just looking for a story. But here's the truth, this isn't noise anymore. This is pressure. Real mounting pressure. And it's coming from every direction. From the outside, it looks like the Browns are gaslighting their own fan base. They're watching the same games we are. They're seeing the same checkdowns, the same stalled drives, the same offensive anemia that screams, "This isn't working." And yet, they keep trotting Gabriel out there like hoping real hard will magically make him the guy. Newsflash, it won't. You can't game manage your way to a franchise turnaround. You can't dink and dunk your way through a season and expect to fool every defensive coordinator in the league. It worked for about a half against the Vikings. Then the defense adjusted and Gabriel didn't. He played like a quarterback hoping to survive, not one trying to win. And that's where the danger lies. Because if you're not playing to win, you're playing not to lose. And playing not to lose is the fastest way to start losing everything. The locker room, the fans, and eventually, the season. What's worse is the psychology of this whole situation. Because you know who's watching all of this unfold in real time? Shedeur Sanders. And if you think he's not aware of what's going on, you're kidding yourself. He sees Gabriel struggling. He hears the crowd. He watches the film. And he's standing there week after week knowing he's ready. Knowing he has the tools. Knowing the coaching staff doesn't trust him. Yet. That's how resentment starts to fester. Not just in Sanders but in the locker room. Teammates aren't blind. They know who's performing. They know who gives them a better chance to win. And when the coaching staff ignores what the players already see, that's when the fractures start forming. And the longer this goes on, the harder it becomes to fix. There's also the question of development, because quarterbacks don't grow in bubble wrap. They don't evolve by standing on the sideline in a headset and watching someone else struggle through reps that should have been theirs. Sanders needs real game experience. He needs timing with his receivers. He needs to feel pressure, make mistakes, bounce back, learn. You don't become an NFL quarterback through osmosis. You become one by getting hit, making reads, adjusting on the fly. You become one by playing. But that growth can't happen if you're buried behind a guy who's only starting because the coaching staff doesn't want to admit they were wrong. And let's be honest, that's what this is about. Pride. Someone in that building bet on Gabriel. Maybe it was a coordinator. Maybe it was a head coach. Maybe it was a GM whispering into ears during draft season. Whoever it was, they made their call. They chose Gabriel. And now that it's not working, they're doubling down instead of pivoting. Because pivoting means admitting you messed up. It means saying, we made the wrong call. And we're fixing it now. But the Browns don't do that easily. They cling to bad decisions like a badge of honor. They'd rather go down with the ship than climb into the lifeboat, even if they built the lifeboat themselves. And that's what makes this situation so frustrating. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't some unknown quantity. He's not a wild card. He's not a raw prospect who needs another season on the bench. He's the guy. The moment he got drafted, fans started circling the calendar. When will we see Sanders? That was the question. And now that the answer is clearly right now, the Browns are pretending like they've got time. Like there's no rush. Like the season won't slip away while they sit on their hands. But fans know better. The media knows better. And apparently Mary Kay Cabot knows better too. Because when she goes on record to say Gabriel couldn't finish the job, it's not just a throwaway critique. That's her signaling that the team has a problem. That the leash is too long. That the Browns are playing scared when they have the talent to play bold. She's not just reporting a quote. She's setting the tone. And what's wild is that the Browns had the perfect out. A clean pivot. A way to switch gears without looking weak. All they had to say was, we gave Gabriel a shot. It's Sanders' turn now. That's it. No drama. No chaos. Just smart coaching. Logical adjustment. Instead, they're doubling down and it's getting worse by the week. Because if Gabriel goes out next game and lays another egg, if he stalls again, looks hesitant again, throws for 120 yards and a turnover, then what? Then you have to make the switch. But now it's no longer on your terms. Now it looks like you got bullied into it. Now it looks like you're reacting instead of leading. And that's where credibility starts to erode. Fast. Meanwhile, Sanders is sitting there, NFL ready, mentally locked in, waiting. And every week he waits is a week of wasted growth. A week where the team could have been building something. The Browns don't need to wait for another disaster to act. They don't need to lose 2 more games or let fan anger boil over into full-blown revolt. They need to make the obvious call now while there's still something to salvage. Because here's the brutal truth. This team could win games with Sanders. They could start building around a dynamic quarterback with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. They could give the fans something real to believe in. But right now, they're stuck in a limbo of their own making. Paralyzed by fear, shackled by pride, and stubbornly clinging to a quarterback who doesn't have the firepower to carry them forward. The fans see it. The media sees it. Even the insiders are starting to crack. So how long until the Browns do? Eventually, the pressure becomes too much. The losses pile up. The offense stagnates. And someone in that building finally says what everyone else already knows. It's time. Until then, this team is walking a tightrope with no net. Every Gabriel start is a gamble. Every stalled drive is another brick in the wall of public frustration. And every week they delay the Sanders era is another week of missed opportunity. And in the NFL, missed opportunities are losses, whether they show up on the scoreboard or not. If the Browns want to save their season, salvage their locker room, and finally get on the right side of history for once, they know what they have to do. They just have to do it. So now the Browns are boxed into a corner of their own creation. And you can feel it. Every incomplete pass. Every 3-and-out. Every time the camera cuts to Shedeur Sanders with that unreadable look on his face, standing stone still in a ball cap while Gabriel jogs back to the sideline after another dead drive. It's not just tension, it's resentment slowly bubbling under the surface. And let's be honest, this isn't just about two quarterbacks. It's about what this team is choosing to represent. Are they the kind of organization that puts its best players on the field, or are they the kind of franchise that protects its ego above its results? Because that's the decision right now. Dillon Gabriel may have been the safe pick on paper. He may have looked like the coachable, system-friendly rookie. But in the cold reality of game speed, NFL pressure, and grown man defenses, he looks small. He looks hesitant. And he looks out of time. Meanwhile, Sanders brings juice, swagger, and more importantly, results. You don't light up the college football world by accident. His game isn't just hype, it's proven. And yet, Cleveland is treating him like a science experiment that's too dangerous to touch until further notice. It's almost like they fear unleashing him. Maybe because once they do, there's no going back. Once Sanders steps onto that field and makes plays, the narrative shifts. He becomes the story, the franchise. And every decision that kept him benched looks even worse in hindsight. And you know who knows that? The front office. That's the other layer to this drama. The people who stuck with Gabriel? They're not just backing a QB, they're backing their own reputations. Their scouting. Their draft board. Their plan. If they admit that Sanders is the better option now, they're also admitting that they got it wrong the first time. And in this league, that kind of self-awareness is rare. Almost unheard of. But guess what? Winning solves everything. If Sanders goes in and plays like everyone already believes he can, nobody's going to care how we got here. They'll care that finally, the Browns put the right man under center. Until then, though, we're all stuck in this awkward limbo. Gabriel continues to get starter treatment despite playing like a backup. And Sanders? He continues to be the ghost hanging over every failed drive. And don't underestimate what this is doing to the fan base. Browns fans are some of the most loyal, and let's be honest, most traumatized, in all of football. They've seen it all. The rotating door of quarterbacks, the front office implosions, the near misses, the total collapses. They don't have time for another slow-motion disaster dressed up as strategic development. They want fire. They want energy. They want hope. And right now, all of that is sitting on the bench. You think fans are going to sit patiently while another winnable season slides into irrelevance? Absolutely not. They've been through too much. The leash on this coaching staff isn't infinite, especially when the problems are self-inflicted. Choosing to lose slowly is still losing. And we need to talk about Gabriel's body language too. Because it's becoming part of the narrative. He looks overwhelmed. Every time the pocket collapses, he tucks and runs, or worse, checks down to the nearest available option even if it's third and long. That's not a guy trying to extend plays. That's a guy trying to get off the field. You can't build an offense around that. Now, contrast that with what we've seen from Sanders in college. His composure under pressure, his ability to improvise, his arm talent, his confidence. That's not a future project. That's a plug-and-play solution. And if the only thing keeping him off the field is politics, then the Browns are doing exactly what Mary Kay Cabot implied. They're sabotaging their own progress. Let's not get it twisted. Mary Kay doesn't go nuclear unless something's brewing. She's not some hot take merchant. Her criticism has weight. She's embedded. She's wired in. So when she says Gabriel couldn't finish the job, that's not just one game. That's a reflection of what people inside the building are feeling but not saying out loud. Yet. It's the start of the dam cracking. And when the cracks start to show, it's only a matter of time before the whole thing collapses. This is the moment where good franchises make tough calls. You don't ride the ship into the iceberg just because you charted the course. You steer around it. You adjust. You evolve. The Browns? They're acting like they can muscle through this, that they can ride out the media storm. But that storm is growing. And it's not just fans anymore, it's ex-players, insiders, analysts, even former coaches subtly asking the same question. What are we doing here? How many games are they willing to sacrifice before someone in that building blinks? Because it's coming. You can feel it. One more loss. One more underwhelming start. One more headline questioning Gabriel's viability. And then the dam will break. The locker room will start murmuring louder. The fan chants will go from passive to aggressive. And the front office? They'll be forced to act. But by then it might already be too late. Because timing matters. Momentum matters. And right now the Browns are bleeding both. What happens when Gabriel starts getting booed before the second quarter? What happens when players start going off script because they've lost confidence in the system? What happens when Sanders' agent starts quietly poking around, asking why his client is wasting a season behind a quarterback who's clearly not the answer? That's where we're headed. And all of it is avoidable. You have a quarterback with upside, vision, arm talent, leadership, and a chip on his shoulder the size of Ohio. And instead of letting him learn on the fly, you're sheltering him behind a guy whose ceiling is already lower than Sanders' floor. It's not just a mistake, it's malpractice. At this point, it's hard to argue that this delay isn't costing them something every week. Chemistry, trust, development, and possibly wins. The longer they wait, the worse it looks. The more it feels like fear, not strategy. The more it feels like they're trying to protect themselves instead of doing what's best for the team. And here's the kicker. The longer they delay, the harder the switch becomes. Because now, Sanders isn't just the new quarterback, he becomes the savior. And that's a weight that shouldn't be necessary. He shouldn't have to rescue the season. He should be growing with it. But now, the second he steps on the field, the expectations skyrocket. Because the Browns waited too long. They ignored the signs. They tried to make Gabriel work, and now Sanders is the only hope. So when he does finally get his chance, and make no mistake, that day is coming, it's going to be under more pressure than necessary. All because they were too stubborn to make the switch when it mattered most. It didn't have to be this way. The truth is, this isn't just a quarterback controversy. This is a franchise revealing its priorities. And if they choose pride over production, then they deserve every bit of the chaos that comes next. But for the fans? For the ones who've seen this movie before? They know what comes next. And they're already bracing for it. Shedeur Sanders is the quarterback of the future. But if Cleveland's not careful, they're going to waste the present trying to prove otherwise. So what do you think? Is the Browns coaching staff clinging to a failed plan out of ego, or do they really believe Dillon Gabriel gives them the best shot? Let me know in the comments. Should Sanders be starting now? And if you're sick of watching teams self-destruct when the answer is standing right there in a helmet on the sideline, go ahead and subscribe. Because this season's just getting started, and if the Browns don't act fast, they're about to give us another meltdown for the books.